Hello and welcome to Satisfactory Update 3.5. This video is a first look at some of the changes that came to Satisfactory Experimental Branch on Steam and Epic today, as I'm recording this and possibly as you're watching this. The first one here is, of course, the Refinery. It has a new model. It has these neat little valves here that let out steam every so often, and it's a little bit maybe squarer in shape. But it has also these nice multi-tiered catwalks and additional visible piping, which makes it kind of stand out more as a refinery. This is the first of the changes, and it's probably the most minor of all. But I wanted to show off some of the other changes. So the next one is pumps. This is now Pipeline Pump Mark 1. And the reason it's Mark 1 is because there's also a Mark 2. And I need to go to the right screen. Mark 1 has 4 megawatts. Power is what it uses, but it also only costs 2 copper sheets and 2 rotors to make, whereas the Mark 2, and it has a head lift of 20 meters. However, the Mark 2 pumps, which have a different look to them, we'll put one up here on the pipe so you can see the difference, is quite a bit different. It has a head lift of 50 meters, but it also costs 2 motors, 4 all-clad aluminum sheets, and 8 plastic, and 12 megawatts. So while you will definitely be able to lift a lot higher with it, have a lot fewer pumps along the path, it'll also cost you a lot more in terms of materials and power. The next feature of pumps that I wanted to show off is this. When you're placing a pump on a pipe now, you have a pump down there that has a head lift of 20 meters because it's a Mark 1 pump. You can see that there's this nice new blue ring where you can snap a pump to it. That is where the head lift for that pump ends. So we can add this pump right here, and we can know for certain that this pump or the pump below it will not exceed its head lift, which is really nice to have. The other change to pumps that I forgot to just show off is now when you place it, you can use your mouse wheel to rotate the direction, of course, and then you can click. And now you can use your mouse wheel to rotate the orientation around the pipe, which is really nice for clipping. In addition, of course, to the much smaller model here. Why is that working when it doesn't have power? Let's grab a power line here someplace. There's one right there. And plug this guy in down there, please. There we go. And now it has power. So you can see now that we have the much smaller physical model along with the different abilities to rotate it around the pipe means that you can keep these things from clipping so badly into your foundations or walls that they might be next to. The next thing that I want to show off is, of course, the other pipes. Pipeline Mark 2. While the Mark 1 pipeline transports 300 cubic meters of fluid per minute and only costs 1 meter or 1 copper sheet per segment, the Mark II has doubled the transport speed of 600 cubic meters, but it costs 1 plastic and 1 all-clad. So it's a much more expensive pipe to build, but it will save you, in like this case here, it would have saved me 2 pipes. I'd only have to bring 2 pipes up to my refineries that are up at the top of my base here instead of 4. And just so you know, it has a little bit different of a design on it. It has this texture on it, so you know that it is indeed a Mark II pipe by looking at it. The next thing that I want to show off is, or actually that is the end of the changes to pipes. They are, it is definitely a sort of game changer change, but you don't need to replace anything else that you might be changing around in your base unless you want to. But there is one additional change to refineries. And I'm jumping down, and I'm trying not to die. Here we have a refinery that is doing unpackaging fuel. If I were to clear this recipe from this refinery, I definitely don't want to do that. But if I were, I would not be able to reselect it. And that's because refineries no longer do packaging and unpackaging. They only do the actual refinery type recipes. Instead, now there's a building called a packager, and that is here and is much much smaller. It uses much less power. This one is, what is the refinery? Here it is right here. 30 megawatts. This is only 10. And what this simply lets you do is do all of the packaging and unpackaging recipes in a much smaller footprint. Now, these refineries are still going to continue work because I'm not messing with them, but if I were to make any change at all to them, I would have to replace them now with Packet Mark 1, the packager. Which is much nicer because it's much less power. It's only 10 megawatts instead of 30, and it's a much smaller building that actually fits squarely in one square foundation, which is really nice also. It fits kind of really nicely in that 8x8 space, and I think it's about 12 meters high, so it'll fit in a smaller area as well, height-wise. So that is the other change to refineries that I wanted to show off once I got down here. The next change that I want to highlight is in the Awesome Shop, or is purchased in the Awesome Shop. In addition to a couple of other things that I'm going to go ahead and buy now and then show them off in a moment. The new item, though, is the factory ladder. The factory ladder, now instead of having to build stackable conveyor poles like this in order to climb something, now you can simply build a ladder, and it can be placed up against a wall or foundation or out in the middle of the open, and you can build it up fairly high. It looks like maybe about 40 or 50 meters high, whatever. Must be about 40 meters high or so, and build that, and then you can climb that. And it goes nowhere, so I'm not going to climb it. But it's much better than having to climb the side of a ladder like this, or set of a pipe support like this, and then having to kind of do a weird jump maneuver to get off of it. So the next things that you saw me purchase in the Fix-It shop, the Awesome Shop, is the attachments for power. Specifically the single and double wall, or the single wall outlet rather. It can now be attached to the side of foundations and the underside of foundations. So that'll be a lot, or that'll help a lot for creativity when building things in a room. Maybe you want to attach all your power to the ceiling or to the sides of foundations instead of having everything be power poles or have to be attached to walls. In addition to the wall outlets changing here, also the pipeline wall supports can now be attached to both the sides and the undersides of foundations, and the hypertube transportation wall supports are the same. The difference here would be the conveyor wall mounts cannot be attached to the underside because of the way conveyors look, but they can be attached to the sides of foundations as well. So that's some great improvements for organization and design, especially if you like to use walls, which you can see that I don't. Or I didn't, at least when we built this base here. The final thing that I believe that is in this update is the jump pads. Jump pads now, let's see, they are in transportation. Jump pads can now be used to target your destination. So you can see after I clicked it that I have this new arc of a path that I'm going to follow when I use this jump pad. And I can adjust the arc as much as I want by using my mouse wheel. And it gives me some decent height, and it also gives me some decent distance, right out there about 45 degrees. But it really just depends on what you might want to use this for in your base. In my case, maybe, I don't know, I don't really have a great spot here to show it off, but if I wanted to make sure that I landed on the end of that foundation down there instead of falling off the end, for example, I now know that I can. And I'm going to wait for this thing to power up, and then I can use the jump pad, and I was moving when I hit it, so it took me in the wrong direction. But that's okay. So that is the last of the updates. No, it's not the last update. There is one more change. The last change is to the pipes again that I forgot about earlier, and that is the valve. The valve is used to control both flow direction, as I'm doing here, as well as, and you can rotate it around the pipe as well as being able to control the rate of flow for the valve. So for the pipe rather. So now I can click on the valve and I can limit the amount of flow that can come out of this pipe. And so this might be useful in builds such as aluminum, where you have wastewater and you want to feed that back into the bauxite refinement process. But it's not going to be perfect, I don't think, still in that case, because there's still a lot of factors in the way that is processed and built. So that's where we're going to end this video for today. I hope this first look was useful for you, and I hope that you will take advantage of some of these new features and enjoy them. Let me know in the comments what you think, both of the video as well as the new features, and let me know if you have any other ideas for what you might use these new features for, as well as any ideas for any tutorials or features that you want to see coming out on Satisfactory here on my channel. So thank you all for joining me today, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.